From County College of Morris, this is CCM All Access.
Hello, and welcome to CCM All Access, the program that brings you news and information from the County College of Morris. Students on campus, members of the community, people doing good things. I'm Nicholas Kratzel, and our guest today is no stranger to this program, a longtime host and crew member, Mr. Danill Barkov. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course, of course. So, as I just said, you were a host of this program. Can you tell us how that went? Some experiences?
Yes, I was a host for a little bit. It was a really good time, being back in the studio for the first time. Some things are a little different, but I don't know, it was a good experience. I really enjoyed it. I think it kind of, changed my perspective of what media is, and I guess maybe put me on like a path on what I want to do in the future of my life.
Absolutely. So you said things are different. Can you explain some of the differences?
Well, the set is a little bit, still the same. But,
Right.
I mean, obviously, new host. Just I don't know, I guess the environment a little bit. You guys are a lot more professional. Everything's a little bit more put together,
Okay. So I do understand that in the past, you got, like, you said studio. You guys had a different studio prior to this, correct?
Yes. So we were using the other studio here, which was kind of like the news desk situation.
Yep.
Kinda,
I've seen some of the episodes, so yeah, I know.
Kind of looks like a Star Trek like clip.
Yep.
But yeah, it was. I think we started out there, did a couple episodes, or maybe the first season, and then we moved here. Kind of felt a little bit more natural, I think.
Okay. So was there a difference in, like you said, natural? Like, was there a big difference in between having guests in there and in here?
Yeah, I think this is a little bit more personal because this way it does seem like we're talking with each other.
Yeah.
But when
we're sitting right across from each other. Yeah.
But in the other studio, it kind of felt like I don't know. I guess the setup, you were basically shoulder to shoulder with the person, so it was a little bit weird, a little bit kind of awkward.
Right.
But I do like this setup. I think is a lot more natural, I guess.
No, definitely. I mean, I do like I said, I've seen some of the old episodes, especially the ones in the other room, and it's definitely more natural. Like you get to sit across from the person and it's like you're having a normal conversation with them, and it's not really an interview.
Yeah.
I
think this is more. This seems way more professional to me. It's just
absolutely.
The other one, it kind of seemed like more of like a YouTube kind of like
for sure.
People
Yeah,
sat down and started making a show on their own. But I think the show's changed a lot, evolved as the time has gone on.
No, definitely. I mean, you could tell if you watch the episodes.
Yeah.
You can tell. Can you tell us about some of the guests you've had on?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, we did a lot of students, a lot of professors. Obviously, I believe we had somebody who was running for like a political office who was also a professor. I don't have the best memory, so I'm not remembering everybody exactly.
Right, of course, yeah.
But I don't know. It was I think my favorite episodes were when we were when I got to interview, I guess, the people who work on the show with us.
Right, yeah.
I think because you had kind of like a camaraderie at that point, so it was a lot more easier to, I guess, communicate with them.
For sure, yeah. I mean, you're working with them.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you have to communicate outside of the show.
Yeah, so it was a lot more natural, more fluid.
Yeah, no, definitely. I do remember this is, something that is kind of odd, but I remember before I came to CCM, I would go on the YouTube, see if they had any tours or anything, and the first thing I saw was your face on there, and I was like, I wonder, what is this? Is this a show? And ironically, I started doing this, and I was like, oh, that's Danill. I've never met the guy, but that's what this is.
That's actually really funny you say that, because the first season when we started the show, I don't think I'm a shy person, but when you get into a new class, you don't really know.
It's nerve-wracking.
It's nerve-wracking, and one of my professors, who we actually had on the show, I'm kind of forgetting his name right now, but he was a business professor, and in the middle of class, he just goes, "We have a celebrity in the class," and obviously,
no way.
I don't know what's going on,
Right.
and then he just pulls up the green screen and just pulls up the CCM website, not the green screen, the prompter.
Right.
And it's just a picture of my face, and he just looks, we got a celebrity, and I'm sitting in class.
Did you have him on the show?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah. He
okay.
came on, I believe, actually after that. So I didn't tell him the story, but that's like one of my core memories about, you know, this show and the experience. I remember I was in class, like, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing this right now.
Well, you had to have him on after that.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's like, you could be his idol or something now. I mean, like now the whole entire class knows that you're famous for the most part.
Of course.
So, you know, I had people tell me when I was doing this show, you know, there could be people coming up to you like, hey, I've seen you before, and you know, because YouTube is so accessible. You know?
I actually, because you know how this airs on local programming.
Right, yep.
I was actually going to go get my car one of the times, and I go to like a Subaru dealership.
Okay.
And I walk in there, so I'm talking to the guy, and I see him like looking behind me, and I turn around in the waiting room for like people to wait. They have like a local programming TV, and it's me doing the interview.
You doing the show. So obviously it was somewhere in Morris County then.
Yeah, it was right here. It was a Subaru dealership like here in Morris.
Okay.
But I think I got a better deal because of it. So you know that.
No,
that
I
worked
mean,
out
yeah,
better.
I mean, maybe you could have given him your autograph.
Yeah,
it could have worked.
Yeah,
you might have gotten it for free.
Yeah, he might have thought I was a lot more famous than I was. So
I mean, you know, so in terms of like we were just talking about, you know, being in here and in the other studio, was there any time you had any interesting setups or something different that went on?
I mean, the Halloween episode stands out, obviously, I think, as the most, because I don't know if you've seen it, but, I mean, it was a while ago, but Professor Costa thought it would be a good idea to put on a wolf mask for me. So
you had it on.
I had it on, and I basically walked off, like, because there was a knocking, and the guest came in a mask as well, like, trick-or-treating. So that was so that was the first, like, the intro to the episode. But the wolf mask that they put on me, I couldn't see out of. So I'm walking, like, stiff-headed, basically, to the door. And I think it's very clear that I don't know what's going on because I'm kind of moving my whole body.
Yeah, you're like, where am I going to look? Yeah. Okay.
So I think that was probably the most interesting one, at least that I'm remembering off the top of my head right now.
So was it like a normal interview like we're having now, or was it like Corky?
Yeah, it was a normal interview, just the opening scene to it. It was a little bit different, and there was like a little spooky tone to it, and you know, like the guests came in like trick-or-treating basically. So
wow, okay.
And then the show basically went on as normal.
Who did you have on?
Man, I'm also forgetting.
Okay.
Remembering the guests is not my my best quality, I would say, but
yeah. So like you said, that's your favorite, right? And people don't know this. It's hard to, you know, come up with questions and you know, have someone sitting across from you, and you know, like I'm sure this is easy for you right now because, as we know, you know, you've done it a fair amount of times. Have you had any experiences where it was very difficult to?
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, you're a lot more prepared than I was when I did my.
Well, we talked, you know, I'm come up with the questions a little far in advance, but.
Well, I think you also, I think you would agree that it's like a give and take, I guess, in a way. So
sure.
If it really depends on the guest, you know, because you can ask them all the questions you want, but if they're giving you, you know, one-word responses, it does kind of put it all on your shoulders.
Yes.
But you can only go so far with it.
Yes.
So. I think that was probably the most difficult thing was the couple, and again, nothing against them. They were lovely people, good time, but I think just throwing people onto a set, just being
especially
in cameras.
If they've never done it before either. You know, unless they're, you know, some type of media major or anything. They've never been on camera for the most part. Yeah. So coming out here is, you know, kind of tough. Yeah.
And I think you also probably noticed too, like at least what I started to see was in the first half of the show when we would do was people would be a little more shy. And then nervous, and then after the break, they would, I guess, open up a little bit more.
Yes.
So that was, so I tried to do that. I tried to ask them questions that would a little bit make them comfortable in the first half, and then the second one when they were a little bit more.
You fly through.
Exactly.
You fly through. I think we were talking about this prior, but my hardest part of the show is when you have the guest on and you have a list of questions, you share it with them, and it's hard to get kind of what you want out of them because they're, like you said, they're shy to be on the show, and it's hard to be on here. It's hard to be in front of, you know, there's cameras in here and you're on camera at all times, obviously. So it's, you know, it's hard to come up with things and for them to answer the way that you want, you know?
I think the most panic-inducing thing that ever happened to me was when I would have a list of questions and I would ask a very, you know, simple one just to get them a response, and then they would answer all of the questions.
Right. And you're like, oh, darn, yeah. No, like I've had the same experience. You know, you have the list of questions there, and you're like, all right. But here's where the problem is. You write all the questions down, And what ends up happening is they're so closely related, you don't realize this, but the person is going to go on to the other questions that you're going to ask, and it's like, all right, now what do I do? Now it's like, now you got to come up with, things to say, really.
Yeah, or you're trying to get back into it. Like, this is kind of a cheap trick I think I would use, but I'd be like, well, could you elaborate further, please?
Yeah, no, of course, yeah, no. Like, I noticed one of the things I definitely picked up was maybe my second or third show, I started noticing that if I could really kind of tune out what's going on outside of the interview, really, I can really just focus in on having a conversation with another person rather than, thinking it's more of like an interview and it's going to be posted. So what I would do is I would like really pay attention to what they were saying and try to get, the most minute details down and elaborate further on that. And then you end up getting more things than you think possible.
I also think that even when a person is, a little shy and a little nervous, because a lot of the people that, like you have on, that like we've had on the show, like they're very passionate about the things
what
that
what
they do here.
Yep.
So as soon as you kind of get like open that door for them and they actually open up about it, it makes
about their passion. Yep.
Yeah, so it makes it a lot more easier. It flows a lot more naturally, I guess.
For sure. And I did like the one thing that I tend to know is all of us are really related. We all have, for the most part, something to do with the college, and we can all relate to something, whether it's the education part of it, being on the show, and things that we like. So it's hard to, or it's easy rather. It's easy to relate. But once again, you got to come up with questions because you don't know what they're passionate about.
Exactly.
So what about you? Did after the show, even before the show, were you interested in like media?
So that's actually a really good question. So I actually was not interested in media really at all, and I was pursuing more of like a business major.
Okay.
And I actually had Professor Costa in one of my classes, and I think one of the things I was told as a kid is if you get an opportunity, just take it and see where it goes. And Professor Costa basically went up to me one day and he was like when the show was starting, he asked me, "Hey, do you want to do the show?" And he asked me and one other person, and the other person I remember they were like, "Oh, I don't know, I have to check my schedule." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I'll be there 100%."
Yeah, no, for sure.
So I showed up, and I started doing this. Maybe even if I like didn't really want to do like pursue like a career in television or anything like that, I think this did open up a door for me into I guess media, and I guess I've been more passionate about that than I have been about, I guess, when I was doing business as a major.
Okay.
Because there I was just kind of on autopilot, just kind of going through it. I had a couple internships, but I really wasn't feeling it. And then basically by doing this show, I guess I learned the basic knowledge to be able to, I guess, start pursuing something that, I would maybe end up doing as a career in the future.
Right.
Yes.
I'll come back to that in a second, but I can relate to that as well. Obviously I'm on the show now too, and I'm a host. But I remember when I got the opportunity from Professor Costa, I went home and told my parents, and they were like, "TV, like, no way! Like that's really cool. Like I never would have thought, and in a million years that I would be doing something like this. And it's amazing. Like you never realize, you're watching the news in the morning or any television show, how much work goes into all of this. Behind the scenes, between people moving the cameras around and the audio and, mic-related issues and editing, it's unbelievable.
It's basically, it's more impressive, I think, with the people who know how to do everything all together instead of, I guess, at least my perception of what TV was, I just assumed there's one person that just does the cameras, there's just one person that does maybe the audio. But then, like, looking in on it now, I see that there's people that are specialized and are basically masters in every single, I guess, department of it. And that's even more admirable and impressive to me, I think.
Now we're going to take a break. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
I'm Andrea Lucia, a graduate of County College of Morris. At CCM, I gained a high-quality education, was involved with clubs on campus, and performed university research in tissue engineering. My CCM education prepared me for ongoing success. Today, I am at Cornell University, studying engineering and performing research in cardiac tissue engineering. The professors and staff at CCM helped me to start right and finish strong.
All right, this is Danill Barkov's rehearsal take 1 February 27th, 2018. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Spotlight Morris County, the program that brings you news and information from the greater Morris County area. Students at CCM, members of the community, people doing good things. I'm your host, Danill Barkov, and we are coming to you from the Alex DeCroche Media Center here at CCM. And how fitting that we have the director of this facility as our guest, Mr. Joe Schilp. Thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome back to CCM All Access. I'm Nicholas Kratzel, and we're here with Danill Barkov. And what you just saw was footage from Danill's tape test recorded back in 2018. What do you remember about that first?
Oh man, yeah, that was some good memories going back. I'm like we were talking about before. I think you saw how nervous I was, and
Of course.
it was a little embarrassing, but at the same
Yep.
time, kind of funny looking back on it. I think.
I
So.
remember my first day, and obviously not like a regular, and I was sitting in the chair that you are in, and it was interesting.
Yeah.
Looking back at it, of course.
Yeah, I think it's good to see how far like you've come as an
course.
interviewer, and it's just good to I guess look back on the first day.
Yeah, and I mean, as you know, we still screw up.
Yeah.
So, it's tough.
Yeah.
But for a minute, I'd like to move away from CCM All Access and talk about some student life, including yourself. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So, I mean, CCM is like a great school. I've met a lot of great friends here. Some great professors as well that I think when I was starting to go to school, I never, at least in high school, I never really had like a personal relation with like teachers, like, or somebody that I could really say like affected me. But then here, I mean, Professor Costa obviously is one. And then another professor that really stands out to me is Professor Rispoli. She was my English teacher, and I think she really kind of changed my view on like what I should be as a student, because there was a lot of times when I would let's just say I wasn't the best student when I was starting out.
Of course.
And I remember I was doing really bad in her class, and I remember she sat me down. She had to talk with me, and she goes, "You have two options right now. You can either, like with how you're currently doing this class, you can either keep going the way you're doing, and like you will end up failing this class, or you can basically turn it around, and you'll be able to pass and get through it." And I mean, there's obviously a lot more to it, but I think just the way that she took time out of her day, and like, I mean, she was a mother, she had a lot going on. She really took time out of her day to really, interact with me and kind of get me to focus. And I think that really, really hit home for me. And I could really say that was, I think, the point where I started to, I guess, see that I need to, I guess, hold myself accountable. So
Definitely.
I think that was definitely one of the really big standout moments here at CCM that I'm really thankful for, honestly.
Absolutely. I mean, like I could say for myself, same thing. In high school, I had a very difficult time, learning. And as soon as I got to CCM, I really started picking things up. The only person besides a few select teachers in high school I can remember is my mom. Was really the only one that was able to, help me, learn and remember things, efficiently.
Yeah.
And so yeah, no, I understand that 100%. So what were you involved in anything other than CCM All Access?
So I don't think I was, honestly, but I mean, I was involved in a lot of my classes, I guess. If I had a really big, I had a thing where basically if I wasn't interested in a class, that's when I would kind of, not do well in it. But I'm a huge history fan. I love history.
Okay.
So anytime there was history classes, I think that really made me be involved in the class.
Absolutely.
I remember one of the classes was specifically on like World War I, and I guess that around that time. And again, I love that period. I mean, it's a very dark time, but I really enjoyed learning about it.
Yes.
And I remember in class, the teacher would be talking about this stuff, and I would automatically be like, well, yes, this also happened. Just chiming in, just kind of being obnoxious. But, But it was just because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have history. History is also my favorite subject, and I get that too. It's the only class where I'm really like, wow, like this is amazing. Learning about this stuff, and I have that same issue. I have a hard time, getting into it if I really don't like it, and that's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to do for sure.
I think it's really, I think it's like history in itself. I think like I don't even know why Hollywood really makes, you know, movies that they just make up plots for. There's so
Okay.
much interesting things
Right.
in
Yeah.
history that they could just take from.
Yes.
You know?
And
So,
obviously, there's like so much. I mean,
Yeah.
history goes back until
yeah,
forever. I mean,
Different-
literally to the beginning of time.
exactly. Different
So,
cultures, you know, stuff like
Yes,
that.
there's so much you can talk about, really. So, like you said, history. You know, you said that's your favorite subject, and so were you like, you were a business major? You said.
Yes, so I
Okay.
started out basically doing, I believe it was business administration,
Okay.
or honestly, it was kind of all over the place at the start there.
Okay.
And then basically I started to see that I wasn't, like I did some internships. Basically, I tried to follow that career path because I guess everyone was telling me to go into that career path.
Okay.
You know, I did some internships, I worked in the city, and I started to see that it really wasn't for me. And I guess honestly around that time is when Professor Costa like reached out to me like, hey, do you want to try the show?
Right.
So I was still following through with that for like a good bit of time, but I guess the, you know, the media aspect for me was opened up. So then I started, you know, thinking about changing my major, taking some some media classes.
Right.
And then the more I got involved with CCM, with the broadcasting courses here, I mean, the studio here is, you know, obviously like amazing compared to, I mean, not that I know too much about studios, but the studio here is really advanced, really amazing, and like really large, and I think it wasn't utilized as much. So
Definitely not. Yeah.
giving the opportunity to see and learn really opened up the door for me and got me actually engaged in my education going further.
Right. Media is great because you can have, like you said, you like history. History could be in media. Business could be in media. Like literally anything you like could be related to it. And you can
Exactly.
talk about that. So outside of school, and obviously at CCM All Access, you got into media. Like, did you have any jobs related to that, or even currently, do you do anything related to media?
So I mean, the thing that I'm trying to do now is I have a good friend who was also did media like at another school, and me and him are also, you know, big fans of history. So we're actually right now like in the process of trying to like make our own like show
Okay.
about history, I guess. It's not out yet, so I'm not gonna, you know, plug it or
Right,
anything.
right. Okay.
But it's something that we just kind of started doing as a hobby and just for fun. And I guess we'll see like where it goes. But I mean, even myself, like, if you look at my Netflix recommendations, it's all history stuff, you know.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
even for my, you know, rest and, you know, in just time when I'm taking time for myself, I'm going out
Personal
and
time. Yep.
consuming basically history and stuff. So I figured, why not try to pursue something in that I guess department.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you got to do things that you like because
Exactly.
you know you don't want to spend your whole life doing something that you don't like. As you know.
That's the biggest fear.
Yeah, it is. My biggest fear, you know, you'd like I said, like to do something you're interested in all the time. So, after CCM, did you what was your path looking like? What did you do?
So I actually in 2020 when COVID was starting, I mean, again, having to do with history, I was really interested in military history, and I was around 23 at that time. So I decided to enlist in the Marine Corps, basically. So I joined the Marine Corps Reserves. Unfortunately, it was during COVID, so my basic training, which was supposed to be about, you know, 3 months, actually ended up taking close to a year because of, you know, all the quarantines and, you know, a lot of the courses were closed down smaller, so they had to do, you know, cycle us through at a slower rate. So, you know, I basically didn't experience the first year of COVID, being completely honest with you, because I was just away, you know, going through training.
Wow, that's pretty crazy,
Yeah.
actually. So, like you said, it took almost a year to finish. Is that because people got sick, or?
Well, it's just because well, like when you're in the military, you get put into, like, I guess, a job role. So there's you first go to, at least in the Marine Corps, you go to a basic training for 3 months. Then you go to MCT, which is a month, which is like your combat school, and then you go to your profession school, which is your MOS school. Mine happened to be artillery, so I'm a 0811 cannoneer. So, you know, I shoot the big howitzers, basically.
Okay.
So my schoolhouse thankfully wasn't long. You know, it was only about 2 months. But, you know, there's some schoolhouses that for like intelligence that you go for 8 months. So, but because of COVID, before I even got to basic training, I had to do a month of quarantine in a hotel room, basically. So
Wow.
I was just in a hotel room with 2 other people for a month, not allowed to
For a
leave.
month?
For a month. So
No way.
we did that. Then when we got to basic training, a lot of precautions were taken there. If anybody was, because we would be like 90 of us in one room, so if one person got sick, everybody got sick. So, that was I think probably the hardest thing. Those 3 months at basic, that was a little rough.
Absolutely.
But I enjoyed it. Then when we got to MCT, there was also a quarantine period before it, so about like 2 weeks. And then after, when we got to my schoolhouse, because of COVID, they had to make the class sizes a lot smaller. So when normally it would be a class of 90 people, the class was of 45 people. So then there was a waiting period before it, I guess.
Right.
So, which was for me about, I think, a little over a month.
Okay.
So basically I had to wait that period, then do my month and a half, 2 month course after that as well. So it was a lot of it wasn't even training, it was literally just quarantining basically to be able to attend the training courses.
Right. So you said 45 people, right?
Mhm.
Is that because they split it up?
Yes.
Or is it
Yeah.
because they
was-
just had enlistment down?
No, it was
Okay.
mainly because, I mean, honestly probably that too, but
Yeah.
but it was because COVID, it was at it was
You said 2020. So
2020.
yeah.
So I went in I believe it was October, right after Halloween actually.
Okay.
So, and right when I went in, COVID was already at a more serious pace, but it was getting more and more serious.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of people, I guess, at that point didn't really know how to handle it. It was
Still early.
Still early, still pretty new.
Yep.
So, a lot of extra precautions were taken. Maybe some precautions that should have been taken might have not been still at that time. So it was just really up in the air at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Understandably. So obviously said, COVID was going on,
Mm-hmm.
and this might have affected this, but did you go anywhere, like, other than New Jersey?
Yes.
Okay.
So I went to South Carolina to Paris Island.
Really?
For those first 3 months. Well, actually, I went to Atlanta first to stay in a hotel room.
Right. Yep.
For a month. Then I went to Paris Island. Then after that, I went to Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I should probably know this, but and then after that, I went to Fort Sill in Oklahoma, which was.
I hear a lot of people go there for that. Yeah.
Yeah, so because Fort Sill is the Army basic training. So
Right.
while the Army was there for their basic training, I was there for my artillery training with the Marine Corps. So, it's pretty funny because the entire base is like 40,000 people and there's only like 300 Marines on there. So.
I was gonna say because I had a few friends that had
Yeah.
joined the Army or the Army Reserves, one of them, and they all went to Oklahoma. I was like, why
Yeah.
are they all going there? And I always think, I'm like, anytime I think of the military, I'm thinking like,
Oh.
these guys are wearing like so much gear, and Oklahoma is so hot. Like,
Oklahoma, I don't know what biome Fort Sill is in, but I remember when we got there, it would be like 10 degrees during the nighttime. Then it would be 90 degrees during the day.
middle of the desert.
There's
Yeah.
tumbleweeds rolling around.
Yeah.
There's snow sometimes, and then there's tarantulas just crawling on the ground.
At the base?
Just
No, that's
everywhere.
crazy.
So it
Yeah.
was just wild, really. It was like a different world, basically.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then that was the last place you went.
That was the last place.
Okay. So what did you do after that?
So now I'm basically I came home. I'm stationed at McGuire Air Force Base. So and still right now.
Okay.
So that's where my unit is. And basically at this point, so what I do is once a month we go for it could be anywhere from a week to 2 days for training. Like I actually just got back yesterday. We were away for 4 days in basically training, shooting artillery, just making sure we knew what we were doing because we don't go as much as active duty people.
Right, because you're in the reserves.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
So, and then once a year we do a 2-week training thing where we just go away for 2 weeks and just live in a hole in the dirt and just train basically. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So in terms of the reserves, before I go on, in terms of the reserves, you're not active.
No.
So that means if there was a conflict, you guys are already trained and like ready to
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
So you guys are sent.
So basically, like if there's a conflict, the active duty people would, I guess, be the first group to go.
Okay.
And then while more people would be training or whatever situation is, we really don't know. The reserve, since we already have some training, we're pretty up to date. I would have to go for about a month or two for just a really refresher just to get us really in working order. And then we would go in and basically act as, fully enlisted. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So that's unbelievable. Actually, thinking about it, like knowing that you have to, anything could happen. Like that's.
It's a crazy world we live in. So,
I mean, it is, and you know, it's like I can't imagine. Like even the active duty people, like thinking like they're going like right in.
I don't know. I mean,
you know,
I give all my respect to those guys. I don't know how they do it, being completely honest with you. I mean, I was gone for 4 days. I'm super tired right now. I can't imagine, you know, 4 years.
Right. No,
just nonstop.
absolutely, for sure. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
So thank you so much for coming on. You know, you were the former host. That's unbelievable. You know, now I'm sitting in the chair that you were.
Yeah.
So for old time's sake, would you like to end the show?
I mean, if it's all right with you, sure.
Absolutely.
Of course.
For sure.
So thank you so much again for having me on.
No problem.
This has been another edition of CCM All Access. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.